And I said, I need a ticket from here to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Where's the bus? And the guy said, what do you mean, where's the bus? I says, where's the bus that takes us there? Nobody takes you there, private. You have to get a ticket and go there. Shit. Okay. Give me a ticket then. How much is it? $20. $20? I got 10. All I got's 10. And he says, well, that's not going to get you there. So I'm walking around going, what am I going to do? Trying to think to myself, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So this lady came over and she says, do you need some help? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. I said, I need to get a ticket that goes from here to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And it's a $20 ticket. All I got is 10. She goes, here, I'll pay it for you. So she bought me a ticket. And she said, here's my address, or no, here's my phone number and my address. When you get paid, send it to me. Yes, ma'am, I will. I sure will. I promise. So I got out, got on the bus. It was about 50 miles away. So it was a long ride. And so when I finally got there, it was kind of in the evening. And I showed up and I went inside and I told the sergeant at the desk, I said, here's my orders. He looks at him and he says, PFC Libby. Hey, you were supposed to be here 3 days ago, according to these orders. Where you been? I said, well, I went home I kind of got going with the story. He goes, I don't want to hear it. I just know that the brigade command is going to be real happy to see you. He said, tomorrow morning, you got a report. There'll be a car come over here and get you and take you over to the brigade command. Okay, so sure enough, next morning, car, went out front. And this guy comes out and he says, I'm looking for a PFC Libby. That's me. Okay, get in the car, let's go. So he drove me, it was a Jeep. He drove me over to the brigade command and I went in and he says, just go in there and report to the sergeant major. Okay, so I went in and I found the sergeant major and I said, I'm PFC Libby. I'm supposed to be here. I just got in last night. And he looks at my orders and he goes, you're AWOL. I said, I know. And he says, what do you mean you know? You know. I said, oh, I know I'm AWOL, I know. And he says, okay, stay here, I'll be right back. So he goes in the other room and I can hear somebody yelling in there and he says, I don't want to see that son of a bitch. He says, he's AWOL, send him down to the battalion. I said, oh. So the guy, Sergeant Major, comes out. He said, well, I guess you heard that from the commander, so we're going to send you down to battalion. Okay. So got another Jeep, came and got me, picked me up, took me down to the battalion headquarters, and went in there. He said, see the Sergeant Major when you get there. Okay. So I got there and went in to see the Sergeant Major, and I handed him my orders. And he said, yeah, they just called me about you. He said, you're AWOL. The battalion commander will see you in a minute. Excuse me. So I said, okay. So I was waiting around and then he went into the commander's office and he's yelling too. I can hear him yelling in there. I don't want to see that son of a bitch. He's AWOL. We don't need him here. Send him call Company B and have him come get him. They're looking for a cook. So send him over there. So, oh, crap. So I'm standing there, and I'm sitting down in a chair, and the first sergeant comes out, and Sergeant Major comes out and says, Private, there's a guy, the first sergeant from Company B will be over here in a minute. He's going to come and get you. I said, okay. He said, what they're gonna do, just let you know, they're gonna deal with your AWOL at their level. You probably will get an Article 15, but maybe not. Maybe you get lucky. I said, okay. At that point, after going all the way to Fort Lewis and going through all that shit, I really didn't care. I really just didn't care. So I said, all right, fine. So I'm waiting there. And this sergeant comes in and he says, I'm looking for a PFC Libby. That's me. He says, get your shit, put it in the back of my truck, and get in the truck. I'll be in there. I'll be out in a minute. So, okay. So I did. I took my duffel bag, threw it in the back of the truck, got inside on the passenger side, and he goes around to the driver's side, gets the door open, gets inside, starts the motor, looks over at me and says, you're not going to believe this, but it's a God's honest truth. He looks over at me and says, Private Libby, man, you're a cook, right? I said, that's right. He said, man, we've been looking for a cook for a long time. Damn, I can't believe we finally got one. My name is Sergeant Payne. And he puts his hand out and to shake my hand. He says, welcome aboard. Oh, okay, thank you. And so he drives me to the company area, and I get out and I go inside. He says, go in the order room right down there. Just go in there and have a seat. I'll be there in just a minute. Okay, so I went inside and I'm standing there, and the sergeant at the desk, he was whoever was in charge in there. And he says, you Private Libby? And I says, yes, I am. Man, nice to have you here. But we've really been waiting for another cook. We got one the other day. We really need another one, so we're glad to have you here. I'm going, well, I'm glad to be here, So what can I say, I said, well, I'm here to get the job done. And he said, well, we hope you enjoy your time while you're here. Okay, so the first sergeant come in and he goes, get your shit, let's go over and I'll put you in the billets where you're going to be stationed, where you're going to be staying. And then I'll explain everything and when on the way over there. I said, okay. So sure enough, he drives me over to this building and he says, this is where you're going to be staying. 1941 buildings. I said, okay. He says, go up to the second floor, and when you get to the second floor, it'll be on your left-hand side. Just go in that door. And there's a couple of bunks in there. He says, and the other cook might be in there, so just go in there and get settled in. And he said, I'll be back to get you a little later on. Take you down to the mess hall. It's okay, great. So here I am. I go upstairs. I go up there. I go in there. Sure enough, there's another guy in there. He's in his cook whites. And he says, are you PFC Libby? And I says, yes, I am. He said, well, welcome aboard. These guys really need cooks. He said, I just got here a couple days ago. They didn't have anybody here, any cooks there at all. I says, and so he starts telling me about where the mess hall is and what's going on and everything. And I just wanted to get hooked up,